In the year 2001, the United States of America experienced one of the biggest tragedies of all time. We lost a total of 2,996 people on September 11th, 2001. Let's start back at the beginning of that day at 5:45 a.m. 19 terrorists boarded the planes. The planes were taking off from Boston, Massachusetts, Newark, New Jersey, and the metropolitan areas of Washington, D.C. Hijackers Mohammed Atta and Abdul Aziz Al-Amari have now passed through the security checkpoint. A while longer, 3 more hijackers boarded the same plane, Flight 11, leaving 5 hijackers on this plane. Just a few minutes later, the streets of New York become filled with residents making their way to the New York City polling station. At 7:59 a.m., Flight 11 takes off from Boston. There were a total of 76 passengers aboard. This flight was on its way to LA with a total of 76,400 pounds of fuel. Exactly 16 minutes later, Flight 175 leaves with 51 passengers, also on its way to LA carrying 76,000 pounds of fuel. At 8:19 a.m., flight attendant Betty Ann Ong gets into contact with American Airlines, notifying them that they have been hijacked. This call lasted about 25 minutes. Right before the call, a hijacker stabbed the man who was sitting in front of him at the time. He was probably trying to stop the hijackers from getting to the front of the plane. Around 2 minutes later, after the call, the hijackers had cut off the plane's transponder. A transponder is an item on a plane used to track where a plane is and where it is going. At around 8:32, a flight attendant on the ground was contacted with the information that the plane had been hijacked by another flight attendant on board. She instantly reports this as soon as possible. Suddenly, a hijacker accidentally transmits a message to all passengers letting them know they have a few planes, ending it with, "You will be okay." This message was intentionally supposed to go to the air traffic control. This incident occurred again a few minutes later. At around 8:30 a.m., the World Trade Center begins opening for the day. One of these events was the Risk Water Group Financial Technology Conference, which was taking place on the 106th floor of the North Tower. A total of 72 staff for this restaurant had already begun to prepare for the event. A few other events taking place was the National Association for Business Conference and an evening event taking place at the Outdoor Plaza. The time is now 8:37, and the Boston Air Traffic Control Center alerts the military. This was the U.S. Air Force's Northeast Air Defense Sector. It was located in Rome, New York. They then identified Flight 11 and began tracking its location. About 5 minutes later, the third flight takes off. This was Flight 93, which was leaving from the Newark International Airport. There were 4 hijackers, 7 crew members, and 33 passengers aboard. Suddenly, at exactly 8:46, the North Tower was attacked. Here's a clip of this exact moment. Sadly, in this exact moment, all people on the plane were killed, including many on the floors 93 and above. Many more above the 91st floor were trapped as 3 emergency stairwells were destroyed. At the same time, the North Tower begins to evacuate as many other first responders risked their lives to save many in the building. This includes paramedics, police, and firefighters. WCBS News Radio 880 said, "Fire trucks are screaming down 7th Avenue." At 8:50, President George W. Bush, who was currently at an elementary school in Florida, was alerted of what had happened to the North Tower. At around 8:55, the South Tower was declared secure. They wanted everyone evacuating to return to their office at this time, telling everyone that they did not need to evacuate. This announcement was made by the Port Authority fire safety employee. Thankfully, a minute before 9 a.m., the PAPD orders an evacuation of both twin towers. Many in the North Tower did not know what to do. At around 9 a.m., a flight attendant on Flight 175 reported a hijacking on the plane. Multiple passengers began to make their last calls to their relatives saying their final goodbyes. At 9:02, the South Tower heard a final announcement telling anyone who could evacuate to do so now. Sadly, it was too late. Just a minute later, at 9:03, the South Tower is hit by Flight 175. They hit floors 77 through 85. All on the plane were killed. I wish I could say that this is the end of this horrific day, and it had no effect on us today. But the reality is, it still affects every one of us, whether we are alive then or not. It will either affect someone you know, or possibly even directly affect you. Although you may see this as just a moment in history, it is definitely more than that. It is a devastating time for all. The lesson to take away is to never forget the moral lessons and courageous examples from 9/11. One of these courageous victims was Sarah Elizabeth Lowe. She was a flight attendant on one of the 4 planes that day. She was raised in Batesville, Arkansas. Her love of flying came from her father, a Batesville citizen, who owned his own private plane and would often fly them different places on vacation. Many described her as being very caring and very good at calming others. Some even said that she could calm even the most enraged travelers. She received multiple degrees from the University of Arkansas in finance and banking. She went to the Batesville High School and was part of the class of '91. Although her love of flying and helping others caused her to stay at her job working for the American Airlines, Sarah cared about people till the moment she died. She is an amazing example for all of us. Here's a picture with her name at the 9/11 Museum. In honor of her, Sarah has a bench dedicated to her and her life story at the front of the Batesville Junior High School. I highly recommend taking a look at it and remembering the life of Sarah Lowe and many others. May we all try to imitate the fine example led by her and many other victims from this day.